In this video, we are going to do a test for the strength on the upper abdominal muscles, and we'll also do some exercises that can help you to build strength there if you have found weakness. Now, you may need 1 or 2 blankets for this, so just have them to the side just in case you need them. And for this exercise, we're going to take ourselves to laying down flat on the floor. And when you lay down flat, I want you just to notice that there is a gap behind your low back. This is the natural lordosis of the spine. Now, what we want to do for this test is actually take that away. And you're going to do that by pulling the abdominal muscles together and pressing really hard as you lift the muscles upwards and inwards just a bit. And this takes that gap away from the low back. So this is the activation. So everything is now active. We're going to take the hands either side of the head, and to do the test, we're going to lift the upper body off the floor. Now you'll see that I haven't lost the curve of the low back here. I'm using the upper abdominal muscles. If I come up further, I would be using the hip flexors. And if I had somebody to hold my feet, I could test my hip flexor strength to see if I can come on up. You see that the feet lift a little bit there. So that first portion where you get the back all the way to the base of the thoracic cavity, so you get basically the rib cage up off the floor, that is the work of the upper abdominal muscles. And then that next portion where you're lifting the low back off the floor, that is the work of your hip flexors. So we're not going to cover the hip flexors in this video. We're going to cover that low back. So if you found that that was hard, and if you found that you were losing the curve in your low back as you were lifting up, there's 2 gentler tests that we can try. So the first one is just to cross the hands across the body. And again, we're going to make sure that we take that curve out of the low back by activating the core. Bring the hands across the body, and again, you're going to lift the upper body and the rib cage all the way to the low back off the floor. Now, when you do this, if this is really hard with the hands like this, you can try one further progression where you bring the hands out in front of you, make sure that the curve is gone, everything is nice and active in the core, and again, you're going to try to lift the shoulders up off the floor. So this is a little bit easier than this because you're bringing the weight of your arms forward and you're kind of counterbalancing a little bit as you come up. So try those 3. If you found that you weren't able to get up without the low back lifting, without creating that gap in the low back, that is an indication that there is some weakness in the upper abdominal muscles. So I'm going to show you some little exercises that you can do for that. So obviously the lifting in itself is an exercise. So if you found that you were okay, that the low back was down, but you wanted to get a little bit stronger, you can just bring the arms out and you can do some lifts, or you can have your arms beside your back and you can just work on lifting the rib cage off the floor. So if you found that it was difficult to get up off the floor, what we're going to do is raise the floor using props. So we can create a little slopey wedge here. Now you can use more than 1 blanket if you need to, but what we're going to do, you can see that I've created a blanket where it's a bit heavier on the top and a bit lighter on the bottom. A wedge, a triangular wedge would be best for this. Unfortunately, I don't have one. But what you're going to do is you're going to lay your back and shoulders on this. So you can see that the head is not resting on it. If I put the head down, the head goes to the floor. And then we're going to take the abdominals into activation. So you pull everything upwards and inwards, nice and strong. It feels like the ribs and the hips are moving closer to each other. Everything is really strongly engaged. And from here, we're going to reach the hands forward, and we're already up a little bit. So we're just going to try to come up a little bit more. And the wedge means that we don't have as far to go. And we're going to go 1, don't let the low back lift, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And lower down. So just make sure that the low back isn't lifting. If when you come up, the low back is lifting off the floor as you're coming up, then that's a sign that you could have really strong hip flexors. They could be kind of interfering with things a little bit. So you want to try to take them out. Now, if the hip flexors are short, and maybe it's not comfortable then for the legs to be straight in this position, then what you can do is take your second blanket. Let's just make a little rolly wedge from that. You can actually place that underneath your knees. So if you found that that was a limitation for you, then you can do it this way. So you see here again, I'm going to activate the core by bringing the ribs and the hips closer to each other. Really, everything is nice and strong. I'm pressing hard, so there's no gap under my back. I've removed that completely. I'm going to reach the arms forward and I'm going to come up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And as you're doing this, I want you to feel that it's this part of your abs that you're using to create that motion. So that is it for this little test.